Admiral Ali Reza Tangsiri in Bandar Abbas. Officials said Tangsiri was responsible for the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has the latest.
According to local and foreign reports, Prime Minister Netanyahu has ordered a 48-hour surge in attacks on Iran's missile and nuclear infrastructure, aiming to maximize damage before any halt in fighting. Israeli officials have expressed doubts that Iran will accept the U.S. proposed deal or that it would fully eliminate the threat. But if they do, time is running short to strike remaining key targets, prompting Prime Minister Netanyahu to direct the military to hit as many high-priority targets as possible during this window. Waves of IDF airstrikes are ongoing. The Israeli Air Force struck multiple Iranian weapons production sites in Tehran, targeting facilities used to manufacture aerial and naval systems for Hamas, Hezbollah, and other proxy groups. During the same wave, aircraft also hit Iranian air defense systems and missile launch positions. In Isfahan, the IDF targeted the sole facility responsible for the design and development of submarines and underwater military systems for the Iranian Navy. The site produces unmanned vessels and support systems, and it was struck under the guidance of military and naval intelligence, dealing a significant blow to Iran's ability to expand or upgrade its naval fleet. Amid the latest airstrikes, Israel announced the killing of Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Naval Admiral Ali Reza Tangsiri in Bandar Abbas. Officials say Tangsiri was responsible for the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The army says the strikes are part of a broader campaign to dismantle Iran's defense industry, including facilities used to arm proxy groups across the region. The army says it will continue targeting production infrastructure to deny the regime the capabilities it built over years. With the waves of precision strikes across Iran, Israel is sending a clear message. The clock is ticking, but no target will be spared in the drive to neutralize Tehran's military threat before any ceasefire can take hold.
This morning, the Islamic regime in Iran sent an unusually large amount of missiles toward Israel. One impact site was in the south of Tel Aviv. Our correspondent Devo Klein went out to the scene to check it out. Devo, what can you tell us?
Hey, Sivan, I'm standing here in Tel Aviv at one of the impact sites of a ballistic missile hit. This is obviously the splitting warhead ballistic missiles, which means that there isn't any news of injuries as of this point, but the damage is extremely extensive. As you can see, the building behind me has been completely damaged just from the small impact of this splitting warhead. As you can see behind me, there's a crater on the ground that was caused from the impact, and the building has been severely damaged. The police are here. They're trying to clear the area, to clear the rubble. Thankfully, there have not been any injuries, but this is a common occurrence from these splitting warheads. There's a lot of impact sites. We've had one in Ganei Tikva. A fragment fell on a car and it completely lit on fire. There was video of civilians rushing out, trying to extinguish the fire themselves with their fire hoses. So what this is doing, what this latest barrages are doing in Israel, especially in central Israel, which has been the recent targeted area, there's a lot of impact sites and a lot of damage, but not a lot of injuries. This is one of those sites, the damage right behind me. Live from Tel Aviv, these are the scenes.
Thank you, Devo. As President Trump's deadline approaches for Iran to accept his 15-point proposal to end the war, the White House is warning Iran it will face even stronger strikes if it does not accept what it calls a military defeat. Iran's foreign minister says there have been no direct talks, only an exchange of messages through third parties. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt says President Donald Trump does not bluff and is prepared to unleash hell if Tehran misreads the situation. Leavitt says talks with Iran are ongoing and productive, even as Tehran reviews a U.S. proposal to end the war. Reports say Washington sent a 15-point plan, but the White House says some details published are not accurate.
The remaining elements of the Iranian regime have another opportunity to cooperate with President Trump, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and cease actively threatening America and our allies. But the president's preference is always peace. There does not need to be any more death and destruction. But if Iran fails to accept the reality of the current moment, if they fail to understand that they have been defeated militarily and will continue to be, President Trump will ensure they are hit harder than they have ever been hit before. President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again. Their last miscalculation cost them their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense system. Any violence beyond this point will be because the Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated and refused to come to a deal.
Diplomatic efforts by countries including Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt are continuing to reach a deal between the U.S. and Iran to end the war as global markets react to hopes for a possible end to the conflict that has disrupted energy supplies and driven volatility in oil prices. Iran's foreign minister says contacts through mediators are underway, but insists this does not amount to direct negotiations with the United States.
مذاکره هم تا الان انجام نشد. من با ضرس قاطع عرض میکنم هیچ مذاکره و گفتگویی با طرف آمریکایی نبود. البته چند روز هست که طرف آمریکایی شروع کرده به ارسال پیام‌های مختلف از طریق واسطه‌های مختلف. این که پیام‌هایی از طریق کشورهای دوست ما داده بشه و ما هم در جواب مواضع خودمون رو اعلام بکنیم یا هشدارهای لازم رو بدیم، این نه اسمش مذاکره است، نه اسمش گفتگو، نه هیچ. تبادل پیام هست به واسطه
Iran is reportedly fortifying Kars Island, its main oil export hub, ahead of a possible U.S. ground operation, sources told CNN. They claim additional troops, air defenses, and traps have been deployed to defend against any assault. U.S. officials are reportedly considering seizing the island to pressure Tehran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but analysts warn a ground assault could lead to high American casualties. Meanwhile, U.S. attacks on Iranian targets are ongoing. Admiral Brad Cooper, commander of U.S. Central Command, gave the update just hours ago.
Hi, I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, commander of U.S. Central Command, here with my 5th update on Operation Epic Fury. We're in the 4th week of the campaign and remain on plan or ahead of plan in achieving very clear military objectives for eliminating Iran's ability to project power in meaningful ways outside its borders. U.S. forces have struck more than 10,000 military targets. In fact, we hit the 10,000th Iranian target just hours ago. And if you combine what we've accomplished with the success of our Israeli ally, together we have struck thousands more, clearly demonstrating that we're stronger together. Our precision strikes have overwhelmed Iranian air defenses, and our combat flights over Iran are having tangible effects.
After a 14-hour pause overnight, sirens returned to central Israel and Jerusalem this morning as Iran resumed missile fire, and incidents were reported across the country. ILTV's Mayan Hoffman has more.
A wave of incoming rockets and missile fire struck central Israel Thursday morning, injuring several people and sending emergency teams scrambling across multiple impact sites in the Gush Dan region. According to United Hatzalah, medics were dispatched to several locations in Tel Aviv and surrounding areas, where shrapnel injuries and blast-related incidents were reported. A woman in her 40s sustained moderate shrapnel wounds to her neck, while another woman of a similar age was listed in light to moderate condition after being struck by fragments and evacuated to hospital. A 26-year-old man was also lightly injured, along with several others treated for minor wounds and emotional shock, including 3 children. Shrapnel impact sites were reported in Holon, Ganei Tikva, and Tel Aviv, where a large fire broke out in Ganei Tikva following the barrage. In Kfar Qasim, at least 2 people were lightly wounded after a missile believed to carry a cluster warhead struck a building. Nearby in Petach Tikva, the blast wave overturned vehicles as emergency teams continued search and rescue operations. Earlier in the day, a 12-year-old girl in Sfat was seriously injured while running to shelter during sirens. Doctors at Ziv Medical Center were able to stabilize her condition. The incident comes as Hezbollah fire in the north has remained nearly non-stop, with repeated alerts sending residents to shelters throughout the day and overnight. Sirens also sounded today in Jerusalem for the first time in what felt like forever.
And joining me now to discuss the latest in this war with Iran is Joe Truzman, senior research analyst and editor at FDD's Long War Journal. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
So with talks of possible negotiations on the table, it is unclear to me, and I'm sure to many, where we're at. Is it possible that we're nearing an end? And what could an end possibly look like?
Right. I think right now we're not seeing a lot. What we are seeing, at least according to reports, is some back channeling between the United States and Iran via Pakistan, which is in itself a good sign that there is some talk there, even if it's, well, indirect. Nevertheless, we are at least getting a window into what the Iranians are thinking and what the Americans are thinking. Right now, it appears that Iran is demanding some significant concessions from the United States. For instance, it wants the United States to leave its bases in the Gulf. It wants, of course, the United States to halt the war. And Iran is also attempting to tie the Lebanese arena into the end of the conflict. Specifically, they're interested in Hezbollah. So we're seeing that, and of course, the United States has its own demands, and we're seeing for example, the issue of the nuclear issue, the issue of missiles and drones that the United States wants the Iranians to curb, some other things as well. So both sides are taking a maximalist approach. I think that's the best way to describe it right now. But right now, at least from what we understand and what's been made public, I don't see anything anything meaningful that demonstrates that this war is going to end within the next days or really anytime soon.
Now we're hearing of a 15-point document. You mentioned some of the major points on it. Apparently, reportedly, was presented. Now Trump says this will mean peace for Israel too. Is that so? Will Israel's interests be met in a potential deal here?
Right. So it's certainly possible. Now, we don't know the full extent of this 15-point plan, but at least from what's been reported and what's been outlined, of course, the nuclear issue, for example, let's say the Iranians decide to abandon its attempts to obtain a nuclear weapon or build a nuclear weapon. I mean, that would be in Israel's interest, also curbing its missile and drone program. And then, of course, Iran's support for its proxies in the Middle East, right, which has been a significant issue or security issue for Israel, especially, of course, as we well know, Hezbollah in the north. So yes, effectively it does secure, or is in the interest of Israel, or security interest of Israel, for Iran to accept this deal. However, we need to be honest here. I'm not sure that Iran will accept any of these points. It may make some concessions, all right, and that's significant, but in the Middle East, for example, I think that's a tough sell, to be quite honest with you. But again, we don't know the full extent of this ceasefire plan. But from what I've seen so far, it does contain, or rather, it does serve Israel's interests. But we'll see again what ends up happening with this.
Israel obviously doesn't just want a deal, but a good deal. Now, at the same time, we're also hearing of the U.S. possibly preparing to take over Kharj Island. So could this talk of negotiations really be a bluff? Who is the U.S. even negotiating with, and will we be seeing any boots on the ground? What are your thoughts?
Right. I think for the negotiations to be meaningful, right, as far as how the United States, or to show that the United States is showing that it's serious, well, it needs to make it, what it's doing is warning Iran that it's possible that they could take over strategic assets or strategic interests in the region owned by Iran. So this Kharg Island, for example, would be, well, is quite a strategic asset for the Iranians. So it is possible that the United States goes ahead with this if ceasefire negotiations don't go anywhere. But I think it is in the interest of the Iranians to follow through, to effectively talk to the United States and try to hammer out a deal here. Now, the problem, of course, is that Iran is taking this a strong approach here when it comes to any ceasefire negotiations. It's making significant demands, and I don't know if it's going to get anywhere with it. But more than anything, Iran is trying to project an image of stability and organization and strength. Whether that's actually the truth, that's another subject.
Now, the Gulf states, they don't seem to want the war to end so soon and for the U.S. to hold its fire. Why? Is it because they will remain in a vulnerable situation?
Right. I think this past war, this current war rather, is showing how vulnerable the Gulf states are, especially the UAE. I'm not surprised to see this reaction by the UAE. I think the UAE, and Gulf states and other Gulf states, of course, like Israel, they want to see Iran's capabilities degraded significantly, especially those, the ballistic missile facilities and drone facilities, for example, which, of course, ballistic missiles and drones have caused havoc for the Gulf states throughout this war. Nevertheless, I think these Gulf states are learning an important lesson. I think things will, after this war is over, Gulf states are going to make some significant decisions with its defenses. But overall, I'm not surprised the Gulf states are taking this stance. And they want to see Iran's weapons and capabilities degraded as much as possible before a ceasefire is enacted.
Joe Truzman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And moving on, as Israel navigates ongoing tensions with Iran, many families are rethinking what it means to build a secure future here. For some, that includes the dream of owning a home, but in today's climate, the process can feel uncertain and overwhelming. That's where Aliyah comes in. With teams across the country, the company provides end-to-end guidance from choosing the right location to coordinating legal and financial steps. Their goal is simple: to bring clarity and confidence to buyers during a complex time. Because today, buying a home in Israel isn't just an investment, it's a step towards stability. To learn more, scan the QR code on your screen. An IDF soldier was killed during an exchange of fire with Hezbollah operatives in southern Lebanon overnight as war against Hezbollah rages on and the IDF expands ground control toward the Litani River. ILTV's Devo Klein has the latest.
The slain soldier was named as Staff Sergeant Ori Greenberg, just 21 years old, from Petah Tikva of the Golani Brigade's reconnaissance unit. He is the third IDF soldier to be killed in Israel's renewed ground offensive against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The latest casualty came as the war against Hezbollah in Lebanon expanded northward as the army moves to expand ground control up to the Litani. IDF commandos have captured a Hezbollah-linked militia commander during an overnight raid on Mount Dov in southern Lebanon. Troops from the Aguz unit detained the suspect, who is affiliated with the Lebanese resistance companies, and transferred him to Israel for questioning by Military Intelligence Unit 504. The IDF says the group is funded by Hezbollah and has taken part in attacks on Israeli forces. In a separate incident, IDF troops from the 401st Armored Brigade killed Hezbollah operatives who fired anti-tank missiles, lightly wounding an officer during clashes in southern Lebanon. And the IDF says it destroyed a Hezbollah rocket launcher used to fire a barrage at the Haifa Bay, striking the site shortly after the attack. Air defenses intercepted some rockets, while others hit open areas with no injuries reported. Meanwhile, Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem says negotiations with Israel under fire would amount to surrender, calling on the Lebanese government to reverse restrictions on the group and rejecting any talks with Israel.
The IDF says it targeted Hamas elite Nukhba unit in central Gaza, killing at least 4 operatives during a training session in an effort to prevent the group from rebuilding its forces. Video of the scene shows an explosion and smoke rising in Deir al-Balah following an Israeli strike. Gaza health officials say dozens have been killed by Israeli fire since the start of the Iran war, with violence rising again after a brief decline. IDF actions come in response to Hamas truce violations and continuing efforts by the terrorists to rebuild and assert control of the parts of Gaza not held by Israeli forces in about half of the territory. Meanwhile, the Board of Peace's top Gaza envoy Nikolai Mladenov outlined the principles of a disarmament plan presented to Hamas, urging the international community to pressure the group to accept it. The plan includes 5 principles. Number 1, reciprocity. Hamas disarms in parallel with staged IDF withdrawal. Number 2, sequencing. The most dangerous weapons like rockets, heavy munitions, and tunnel weapons later via registration and buyback programs. Number 3, verification. Compliance will be closely monitored. Number 4, people. Pathways for Hamas-affiliated individuals to return to civilian life through amnesty and reintegration programs. And last, a timeline that would be managed with flexibility, extensions possible for good faith efforts. Mladenov warned Israel that further military control in Gaza won't provide security, stressing that only verified disarmament and a professional police force under a civilian administration can eliminate the threat permanently.
Step into the story of Israel's heartland with Blessed by Israel, where every purchase connects you to the land, the people, and the promise. Taste the sweetness of the promised land in their delicious honeys. Or wear the story of the land close to your heart with the stunning Special Places of the Land necklace. Behind each product is a family, pioneers living in Judea and Samaria, crafting beauty and goodness from the soil of the Bible. When you buy their creations, you're not only receiving something extraordinary, you're investing in Israel's future, helping small businesses thrive and communities grow strong. Join a movement that celebrates faith, resilience, and hope. Visit blessedbyisrael.com and use ILTV's special code BLESSISRAEL, that's BLESSISRAEL, at checkout for 10% off on your first order. Be part of strengthening Israel, one purchase at a time.
At U Haifa International, academic excellence isn't just a standard, it's a way of life. With 21 English-taught master's programs, world-class faculty, and Israel's top national score in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, students grow in every direction.
If you really want to challenge yourself academically, grow in a very diverse community, and be immersed in such an important and significant environment, University of Haifa is the place for you.
Located on the stunning Carmel Ridge, the U Haifa blends academic excellence with a welcoming community.
U Haifa International has a great combination of top-notch academics with a great community of students.
Whether you're pursuing a one-year master's or diving into research, U Haifa gives you the tools, mentorship, and real-life insight to make your mark on the world. U Haifa International. Master your mind, live your Israel experience.
And now for a quick update on the flight situation here in Israel. El Al, Israel's flagship carrier and main operator of the Ministry of Transportation's rescue flight operations, has now declared all regular scheduled flights will be canceled until the 4th of April. This development comes as Israeli wartime airspace restrictions are expected to remain until April 16th, pending security developments. El Al will operate limited flights to key cities including New York, Los Angeles, Miami, London, Paris, Rome, and Athens, with passenger restrictions only on outbound flights. Passengers have been rebooked based on ticketing time, with priority given to humanitarian and medical cases. Ticket sales for departures are closed through April 15th, while inbound flights are available based on seat availability. Israel will begin daylight saving time overnight, with clocks moving forward 1 hour at 2 a.m., reducing sleep but providing longer evening daylight. Daylight saving time will last until October 25th, 2026, when clocks move back 1 hour. Under the time determination law, clocks advance each year from the Friday before the last Sunday in March until the last Sunday in October. Israel is rushing to strike high-value targets in Iran amid concerns in Jerusalem that U.S. President Donald Trump could suddenly push for a ceasefire this weekend. Amid the latest airstrikes, Israel announced the killing of Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy Admiral Ali Reza